Let's podcast alongside Joe Giglio. I'm Joe Ovies, inside Eford Studios in downtown Raleigh, thanks to Empire Properties and thanks to Copiers Plus. Check them out online at copiers-plus.com. On this show, we like to we like to be there for you, right? Like Joe, you like to mention that Copiers Plus is there for you.
Yeah.
You know, if you've got Wi-Fi issues, you're switching things up, Drew's going to help you out, right?
He is.
Perfect.
I'm on it.
Same with me. Like I realized that all of my printer stuff is on my old MacBook. I need to get that stuff on my new MacBook.
Yes. Same thing happened to me.
Yeah. So all these things, he's there for you. You know, on Saturday, I felt like we were there for both North Carolina fans and NC State fans. Just talk through it, man.
Yeah, man.
It was a bad Saturday for the Tar Heels and the Wolfpack.
Listen, it was bad, but I felt like it was good because everyone just kind of realized, you know what? We're all in the same boat together, man.
Kind of are, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Triangle football, baby. Ain't nothing like it.
Throw App State and ECU in there too now.
That's true too.
You know?
That is true too. But little did I know that the ACC would also be there for Tar Heel fans and Wolfpack fans because yesterday, Joe, they announced their opening weekend conference play matchups in December ahead of the full schedule release on Wednesday. So we've got Saturday, December 7th, a nice fat lead up of conference basketball games leading up to the ACC football championship game. It's kind of like a handoff, if you will, right? So we got North Carolina hosting Georgia Tech.
Hosting.
Not
in Atlanta. So no need to panic.
That's good. That's good. Florida State at NC State, 4:00 on ESPNU.
I don't think Carl Hess is working that game, so we're safe on that front too.
That's good too. And then on Sunday, I do find this interesting. Sunday's lone ACC conference basketball game is Duke at Louisville because Cooper Flagg needs his own day,
Yes,
Joe.
he does.
He needs his own day.
Get used to it.
Shout out to the ACC, man. They were looking at the timeline like, man, people are down bad.
We need to cleanse.
Mack Brown's trying to like explain what exactly happened on Saturday, which we'll get here in a second. I know what we can do. Unless, Joe, does Jim Phillips know this or did somebody else put the call in?
This almost feels like a complete full circle, right?
Okay.
Because remember when Mack Brown left the first time to go to Texas, right? He was running hot. They're in the top 5. They're hosting Florida State. And everyone, that was the game of the century, right? I believe that was the headline when I was working for the News and Observer at the time. I do believe that was the headline. Game of the century.
That could not have been the headline.
Because Colton Tudor, my mentor, was like, we've never had a game like this.
That's fair.
And it's true.
That's fair.
It's true.
That's fair.
So whatever it was, 2 weeks later, they end up playing Duke. This is Carolina. And Mack, for the life of him, was like beside himself. If you believe enough sources, i.e. his wife, who I do believe did confirm this one, he was so beside himself that the focus that week was on Dean Smith and UNC basketball and ACC Media Day, rather than Duke and Carolina football, that he said, you know what? I'm never going to make it here.
I'm out.
I can't do this because I'm always going to be fighting uphill at Carolina basketball. The Texas job is open. It's a lot of money, but when I go to Texas, I know the number one priority is football.
Yeah.
And so now here we are, Mack, emotionally manipulating his roster and his players.
Jeez.
And now coming out and you talk about more PR misses. Now maybe he's like, hey, Swafford, hey, remember that time I felt like you really sandbagged me? I need you. I need you again, man. I need the call from the building.
I need
the call from the building.
I need Tar Heel fans to be talking about basketball.
Yeah.
I need Josh Graham at WSJS to start doing a countdown to ACC Basketball Media Day. We need a countdown to the start of the basketball season. I need all eyes on that orange ball, not our oblong ball.
I will say this for Carolina on their social medias. Sean May was the real star with their first day of practice. He gives the speech points to the banners.
I missed it.
Oh, it was good. It was really good.
I would like setting the table for the season.
Yep.
Nice.
Telling him, hey, man, I'm going to tell you the same thing that Roy Williams told us.
I like that.
You're good enough to put one of those up. You got all the pieces here. It was really well done.
So I was looking at the basketball schedule. I also flipped over to ESPN and I saw that Joe Lunardi already has NC State in the first 4 out.
I mean, on brand.
I think Joe Lunardi only has 2 ACC schools in the NCAA tournament right now.
Nice.
They'll be lucky to get one. And I think that Joe Lunardi is going to start making the argument that Cooper Flagg needs to be on a Mountain West team to truly unlock his potential in competition.
Don't do that to me.
Sorry. We're not too far away from Joe Lunardi saying now for the what's best for Cooper Flagg and what's best for college basketball is to get him off Duke out of the ACC because that's not real competition.
Yeah, we're not far away from like a Nevada win over Kansas State and a Boston College loss to like Cornell. Oh man, ACC is the one big league. Oh my God, Mountain West has completely blown past them.
Well, real quick, while we're on the topic of basketball, there was a pretty wild day in conference realignment yesterday.
Yep,
that almost resulted in Gonzaga joining the Pac-12 potentially as a member of the conference for everything outside of football, even though everything's driven by football.
I don't think they even have football, so
no, they don't. They don't. So the day started with the Pac-12 essentially trying to raid what's left of the Mountain West and the American Athletic Conference. So Memphis, South Florida, UTSA, and Tulane all got reached out by the Pac-12. They're trying to put together a new television package. They all said no. And then when everything looked like it was backing off, like the Pac-12 had to retreat or whatever, and they had to go to a new plan, Utah State ends up saying, yeah, we're in. Okay. Which leaves UNLV as the last kind of team standing. As Mack Brown at Extra Points put it, we really are at the dregs of conference realignment where the future of the Pac-12 in football comes down to UNLV. But there was a brief moment where Gonzaga was going to join as a full revenue member without football just to get the basketball in the fold. And of course, I saw all the jokes online like, oh no, the West Coast Conference is going to give Gonzaga a quadruple bye in their tournament.
So not the double.
Not the double, the quadruple. Just, hey, you automatically get to play in the championship game.
I don't think we're big in the state of Washington.
I don't think so.
They do prefer Zaga over what you're saying.
Oh, Gonzaga?
Yeah.
Gonzaga. Sorry, the Zags.
There you go.
I.e. Joe's nemesis.
There's a way to say Oregon, too, that they do and don't like.
That's fair. Yeah. That's fair. You know what? While we're on the topic of basketball...
like best about this show.
What's that?
When you do things that I have not a single clue where you're going with.
Okay.
Because like you're like, what do I like? I'm like sitting here thinking about basketball. Like, what could Joe be going to right now? Because I don't know. Like,
you're not in basketball mode right now.
No, but like I'm also thinking because I know that's the gambling music, and I'm sitting here going, what is he about to pop? Like, who is he? Is this a wake bet? Are you trying to appeal to my deeks? Like, where? I like this. Where are we going?
No, I just decided, you know what? Let me look at DraftKings Sportsbook app. You can download it today. Use the promo code OG24. Mm-hmm. You bet $5. You get $200 in bonus bets as a new customer. Here's what you do with those bonus bets.
Do it.
You go to college basketball. You look at the championship 2024-2025 futures, and you look at Duke at plus 1,000.
Is it 10-1?
It's 10-1 odds with Cooper Flagg. And you go, you know what?
That number's not going to get any better.
I'm going to go ahead and put my bonus bet on that, right?
It's not going to get any better than that.
UConn is the favorite at plus 900.
I am apt to say UConn will three-peat, kind of like the Chiefs will, but go ahead.
Okay. North Carolina's plus 1,600.
That's not great value for a team with some questions.
Your Zags are plus 1,800.
Again, not great value for a team with some questions.
No. And then as I'm scrolling here, I'm looking for the next best ACC squad. You've got Miami at plus 7,000, Louisville at plus 7,500. I'm looking for NC State. Hell, man, St. Mary's is plus 10,000.
Here, I want to show you what I use my bonus bet on. You ready?
Oh, NC State is plus 13,000, by the way.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so there you go. Clemson's plus 15,000. Probably should be more than that.
Again, should be more than that.
Yeah, should be.
All right, you ready?
Yeah, Boston College, by the way, plus 50,000.
Okay. Remember when I told you it's time to embrace?
Yeah.
Remember when I told you? All right, here we go. And when you said basketball, my brain has gone to this too. Mm-hmm. I do think the Celtics are going to win the NBA again. I think they're going to repeat.
Oh, all right. Okay? Fair enough.
So here's my bonus bet. This was a no risk, no sweat bet from Sunday night. I had a Travis Kelce touchdown Chiefs win parlay. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Travis Kelce is no longer a member of the Chiefs. I don't know if anyone told you this, but apparently he doesn't play for the Chiefs anymore.
He's looking a little.
He's not part of their game plan anymore.
We'll get to that in the light.
So anyway, I got my money back.
Yeah.
So here's what I did. Can you see it? I don't have the stream up.
Yeah, I can't really see it. It's a little blurry on the phone. There's 3-pick parlay.
It's a 3-pick parlay. Chiefs to win the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
It's written in the stars. We already know that.
Of course it is.
Georgia to win the national championship. Football, college football. And the Celtics to win the NBA title. That $40 no sweat bonus bet could pay off $3,957.
Nice. That'll pay
Is
for
that not a nice no sweat?
That should pay for our quarterly taxes.
That's a nice no sweat.
That is nice. So go to DraftKings. Download the app today. Use that promo code OG24. When you do that,
I hate all of those teams. That's where I was trying to get to.
I think, do you hate all those teams? That could also be a Giglio reverse jinx. Like you're just using a no sweat bet to be like, I know how to make sure that none of this pays off. Because I know how you work. I know how you work.
That's fair.
So if you want to use a bonus bet out of spite, we're here for you. Use that promo code OG24. New customers get $200 in bonus bets when they bet just $5 only on the DraftKings Sportsbook app, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/FTBall.
All right. I think we distracted everybody enough at the beginning of today's podcast before getting into Mack Brown's press conference yesterday.
Okay.
As I mentioned yesterday morning when we put the podcast out, and obviously it premieres on YouTube at 2:00, that we were talking about this without having heard from Mack Brown yet. Would be curious to see what kind of questions he was going to get about what happened on Saturday and how he was going to handle it. And I'm not going to play the opening statement from Mack Brown because it just kind of repeats what we understand. Essentially, he was super emotional after the loss to JMU. He was embarrassed. He was walking off the field. This falls on me. So he decided to go into the room and ask the guys in a classic youth sports sort of way, hey, man, I don't have to be here. If you'd rather have somebody else coach you, that's cool, right? I've had so many people tell me, like, I've heard that in youth sports when a coach is just fed up. Like, am I wasting my time here, guys? You want somebody else to do this with you, right? So he pulled that off. The team was like, no, coach, don't do that. And he stayed, right? I thought it was more interesting, the questions that he got and how he didn't want to talk about it anymore after he gave the opening statement. So the questions start with Shelby Swanson, our friend from the Daily Tar Heel, intern for the News and Observer. And then Adam Smith from Inside Carolina follows that up and does a very good job of telling Mack, no, I have to ask you this question.
Questions.
You said,
I don't. You kind of addressed some of maybe the confusion that arose with this post-game locker room scene. What exactly did you say to the team?
Let's talk about Duke. I mean, what I said is if you all don't feel like I'm the leader you need, then I'll go do something else. And they said, nah, man, we're in. Let's go. It was overwhelming. I wish I hadn't put them in that spot. So, but that's all it was. And if I was going to quit, I'd have come in here and done it. So.
We're not talking about that
anymore. Let's go to Duke.
We got it handled.
It's a question I need to ask where you said if you would have quit, you would have come in and told us. With respect to that, the people who were in the locker room, the players and adults left, it is our understanding, thinking you had quit. Are you saying that they misinterpreted what you said in there?
Yes. Yeah, I asked them if
they wanted new leadership, and they said no. I backed away to think about it. I told them, let's go forward. Let's get ready for Duke.
Whew. Messaging's all off on this one, man.
Yeah.
It's been all off since Saturday.
Mack's an emotional guy.
He is.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't blame him. I don't know if you saw this video yesterday. It was from Arkansas basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And John Calipari is the coach at Arkansas now.
I saw, I didn't watch the video. I saw it floating around on my timeline. Yeah.
And it's basically the team doing a choreographed dance to a rap song.
Mm-hmm.
And the person who had reposted it from Arkansas basketball was like, if you can't get behind this or figure this out in 2024, you can't coach anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, well, think about your struggles with your kids. Think about my struggles with my kids and their friends and understanding all of this. Think about all the conversations we've had with Kevin Keats, going back to the kid, the flopper at Wisconsin, right? Like, Joe, you might care about that. They don't care about that.
No.
You know? So you have a generation above us, but Mack is a true boomer trying to figure out the millennials and trying to connect and communicate with them, right?
They're not even millennials, dude.
They're Z's, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is it's hard for anyone above their generation to communicate with them. So now you have another layer. Now you have a guy who has literally made a Hall of Fame career out of being a communicator, who is now emotionally spent, if you will. And I think as much as I try to explain what happened at the end of last year, as a complete outsider, it has to rack his brain constantly. Because again, all these conversations that we've had with coaches center around losses. Like right now, we could probably ask Mack about the Alabama-Texas game in 2009 when they lost the national championship.
He'll remember.
He'll give you every detail from that game, right?
Classic Roy Williams.
Right?
He can give you every detail of any loss.
But if we asked him about the Texas game, he'd probably be like, yeah, Vince was great, man.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
right.
That's just the way coaches are wired. So I'm not faulting Mack Brown for being in the situation that he's in, because I think he was being emotional. To your point about the messaging, this is typically something he's a lot better at.
He is.
Right down to, by the way, North Carolina making the decision on Saturday to not make players available. And right down
make
to
players available
and now
yesterday
this week,
either.
they're saying the players won't be available this week.
They got to focus on Duke, Joe.
And when you do that, to me, that says I don't trust what the players are going to say.
Right.
And these players are adults. And I think that's a mistake. You could pick one or two. God bless TJ Yates and Zach Penalto and Ryan Taylor. Like, those guys had to come out and talk about everybody that whole year.
Yeah.
And guess what they did? They defended everybody. They talked about everybody. They were great spokesmen for the University of North Carolina.
Yeah.
So it's not like it can't be done. And that's where I think they're kind of making a mistake right now. And I'm not suggesting I have the answer for Mack. I would just say to him,
I do.
Well, go ahead, because I don't.
I do.
I think I understand his frustration as well. And I understand why he's so. I understand why he's so emotional as well.
You just said it. He looks spent. If you can't do it anymore, you shouldn't be doing it. And it gets back to what we talked about yesterday, in that you have to have conversations. And why I asked Bubba Cunningham, why I asked him, what I asked him last week. What are those conversations like? But Mack, there's levels to this. There's layers to what I'm seeing in North Carolina. One of them is that Mack Brown truly believes he has complete control of what's going on with the North Carolina football program. And it's flabbergasting to me that a program that isn't really necessarily getting the results of what he promised is cool with all of this. And maybe behind the scenes, they aren't cool with it. But they also know, well, he's Mack, he's a Hall of Famer, we might as well just let this go. Think about this. If this were any other program, we're not kind of treating it this way.
Yeah. Here,
I actually asked somebody over who covers North Carolina, who's covered North Carolina for a very, very long time. And I said, the last couple of days has been some of the most bizarre stuff I've seen, not just in North Carolina football, but in triangle football. Specific to North Carolina, I'm thinking about when Larry Fedora lost to NC State and there was a fight in the corner of the end zone, and Larry was like gaslighting everybody by saying, I just saw two teams that were celebrating. And somebody asked, like, well, what was North Carolina celebrating after State just scored a touchdown and they were going to win that game? Because I just saw two teams celebrating. And this person brought up the only other time that I can think of something so bizarre, and you're watching it unfold and everybody knows, as you said, the party is over, was when Chuck Amato started bringing up partial qualifiers in a loss to Akron.
Yeah.
Right. So once you get to that level, you understand it's over. You understand it's over. And Mack seems to understand it's over. So if that's all the case, you probably just need to say, this is it. Because what's going to happen the rest of the way, again, all the fumbling of PR, every week after a loss, they're going to ask, hey, man, how you feeling after this one? If they get run out by Duke, if you thought the JMU loss was handled in a weird way, what's it going to be like if they lose to Duke? I don't know.
You also can't say that if you're going to quit, you're going to come into the press conference and quit. That's a bad idea.
Yeah.
Look on your screen, though. This is everyone in the ACC's record as a double-digit favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? This is not against the spread. This is straight up. All right? Look at who I consider to be the best coach in college football, and Dave Clawson. What would you expect Dave Clawson's record to be as a double-digit favorite?
Pretty good.
9-0.
Yeah.
Right? And just keep working down the list where you got Clemson 24-4. 2 of those losses are to NC State.
I know, right?
There's Carolina at 10-8 with the second worst win percentage, but it's 18 games.
Mm-hmm.
They've lost 8 games that they were supposed to win. And when you look at the rest of the ACC,
they all handle business.
The rest of the ACC in those situations, again, this is not against the spread. This is as a double-digit favorite, as a game you're supposed to win.
Mm-hmm.
They're 10-8 in those games, barely above 500, right at that Mendoza line of what they are all time as Carolina football. The only team worse than them, and it's because they've only played 3 games, it's Georgia Tech.
Yeah. And Georgia Tech is one of the teams that gave the business
to Carolina. Georgia Tech's responsible for 3 of those losses of the 8 for Carolina.
Yes.
So this is how you get yourself into a situation where you're frustrated and you're emotionally at wit's end. When you lose 8 football games, and that James Madison one is another one, and you lose one of those games and you lose them in the way that they've happened. Go back to that Virginia game last year as a 3-touchdown favorite. Go to the Georgia Tech game as a 3-touchdown favorite. Those were 2 games last year that really cost Carolina. Carolina was in position to make the college football playoff last year. Whether anyone outside of Chapel Hill wants to believe that or not, they were. And when you lose 2 games that way, it starts the wheels spinning. Then you lose, and in the way that they lost to State last year, now all of a sudden you're trying to figure out, how did this happen?
Yeah.
And his offseason evaluation was, I'm getting a new defensive coordinator. I'm going to play more players. Fine. I don't disagree with the premise of how you try to fix it. But now all of a sudden you're in a situation where you give up 70 points to a football team that only scored 13 against Gardner-Webb.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. So I'm willing to forgive him for being like, okay, cool, I get it.
Well, I want to get back to that in a second, because there's another example of just how bad North Carolina has been in these situations. This is from Chris, who we've talked to from Daggum Box Scores on Twitter. You can subscribe to his newsletter, Bless Your Chart. Most blocked punts allowed since the 2019 season. And it's not even close. 8 blocked punts, 2 for touchdowns. You look at the list of other teams that are in there, right? That's a lot. That's about preparation. That's about coaching. That's about putting guys in the right position, which obviously we did not see on Saturday against James Madison. Even with a new defensive coordinator, they took advantage of those special teams blunders. So you get back to the pass, right? Or trying to understand where Mack is.
I'm not giving him a pass. I'm understanding how he got to this point.
But here's my thing when it comes to North Carolina football in particular. I find it interesting that with UNC and Mack, we're treating this very carefully when we would not treat it this carefully for just about any other program, right? Especially in the Triangle. I mean, State still has a season that they might be able to turn around, and people are just livid about what's going on with Dave Dorn.
What do you mean treating it carefully?
Based on, so I'll listen to the Cover 3 podcast. I'll listen to the Yahoo Sports podcast, and it's almost kind of like it's tough to articulate, but it's almost in a way it's North Carolina football, so who gives a shit?
Okay.
Right? If Mack were still at Texas, we know this would be like every single week, people will be losing their minds over it. There's a little tempest in a teapot that's coming out of Chapel Hill. But as I joked at the beginning of this podcast, well, basketball season's right around the corner. So we're not really going to be focused on UNC. I'd be curious to see what the crowds are going to look like at Keenan the rest of the way. And well, I know there is a dedicated group of North Carolina football fans. By and large, it's all kind of given with a shoulder shrug. This has been a really weird couple of days in Chapel Hill, a really weird round of messaging from Mack Brown, and it's largely met with some shoulder shrugs. And they're just waiting for it to play out the string. There's no conversation about, well, who would be the next coach at North Carolina? Who should be the next coach at Carolina? Did they handle it wrong? Should they had a coach in waiting? All these kinds of things. I know that in the Inside Carolina piece from Saturday, there was discussions about Freddie Kitchens being the guy who would be elevated as interim coach, which gets to another thing. we're so far deep in this Mack Brown thing that they've already identified who would it be to be the interim.
While not Bobby Bowden, I think he has earned part of what he's getting. But I thought at the end of last year, that was what he had earned. I thought
he earned the right to
walk.
Yeah, he earned the right to walk away.
But now it's like a full-on Cutcliffe situation where it's like, well, yeah, I went to the ACC championship game once and I resurrected you from the dead.
Yeah.
From the depths of college football. But now it's kind of like, yeah, well, that's not who you are anymore, though.
And look, I will fully admit that I could be reading this wrong. I could be. But I just find the discourse around North Carolina football and how bizarre things have been with Mack Brown in the last couple of days, and it just kind of being met with a shoulder shrug, kind of curious. I mean, again, maybe I'm in the wrong circles. Maybe I'm not looking in the right places, but that's kind of where we're at.
Housekeeping.
It's brought to you by Enovana. You can check them out online at enovana.com. Green Cleaning Solutions.
If you have mess inside your mansion or trash in your cabana, get it clean with Enovana.
Check out ogtrianglemedia.com. You can sign up for OG fans today. Brownlow got very, very emotional with the Panthers' first win. You'll be writing some stuff up today, right? What do you got cooking today?
The one thing Carolina wishes it could change, and the one thing that NC State wishes it could change.
Interesting. We're going to be at the can opener on Thursday out in Durham. That'll be a cool spot. Hopefully it'll stop raining. I'm getting kind of sick and tired of the rain that we're dealing with. So hopefully we'll have some good weather when we head out to the can opener in Durham. Drop on by, say hello. We'll be going live on YouTube at 2:00. One of the spots that we were at recently for an OG Live was Nature's Relief. Check them out, naturesreliefhempstore.com. RELEAF hempstore.com. One thing that you noticed when we were at Nature's Relief, you could tell the customers who make a routine of going to Nature's Relief, they know what they want, but also some customers who don't know exactly what they're looking for. And that's where the customer service comes in. That's what makes Nature's Relief awesome. So again, check them out, naturesreliefhempstore.com. Also, big thanks to Home Field. You can check them out online at homefieldapparel.com. Use that promo code OG24 to save 15% off your order. We talk about the hoodies. They've got those coaches' jackets, incredibly comfortable t-shirts, but they got great hats too. Corduroy hats are out, and it's the perfect time of the year to be breaking those bad boys out. And of course, our friends at O2 Fitness, more than a gym.
O2 Fitness, so much more than a gym.
Get worked on this week?
Yes, always, man. A little dry needling. I got my app too.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is dry needling?
Kind of stimulate the area.
Okay.
Yeah. My neck, my traps, my neck.
So it's just like a needle they put in your neck?
Oh yeah.
Interesting.
Oh yeah. A little different. It's like you move it to get a response.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like it's in the acupuncture family, but
I see.
Yeah.
I see. This is what we mean when we say it's more than a gym. You can check out o2fitnessclubs.com. Obviously, you have your thing, the gym itself with great equipment, friendly staff. But there's also Renew Physiotherapy, which Giglio is taking part in. And there's also Loop Nutrition, which can help you reach your goals by eating right. Again, that's all at O2 Fitness Clubs. Check them out, o2fitnessclubs.com. So yesterday, Dave Canales met with the media, and of course, there was going to be questions about what's happening with the quarterback position going forward. To me, it makes it pretty simple. Andy Dalton was pretty good. They won a game. The offense looked like you clearly want the offense to look. So Joe Person got things started by asking Dave Canales about how things are going to go into next week against the Cincinnati Bengals.
Just wanted to ask you how you are planning to approach quarterback. Is this going to be a deal where you're just going to roll with Andy as long as he continues to play like he did yesterday?
Andy's our quarterback. He gives us our best chance to win. That's the approach as we get ready for the Bengals.
And I know we asked you this yesterday, but as you watched the film of him, was there anything else that really stuck out and stood out in terms of how you guys were able to make such a dramatic turnaround in the passing game?
It was just a commitment to just doing things right, hit the first guy in progression, having answers for pressure, and just being able to take advantage of those things when we did. There's certain things that we got to clean up, but just for the full system to come to life, it all starts up front with the offensive line. Without harping too much on Andy's performance, I got to talk about a group that took the challenge in the run game. We finished the game running the ball, which is my dream. It's my vision of Panthers football at its finest. We're running the ball at the end to establish the attitude and the finish that we're about. And then, of course, just being able to sustain drives and for those guys to give us time so that we can be aggressive down the field, which we were able to do.
So again, that was Dave Canales yesterday about what things are going to look like this week. And yeah, based on what we saw against the Raiders, Andy Dalton does look like a guy who's going to give them their best chance to win against the Bengals this week, Joe.
At the risk of insulting Jonathan Rand, I was the real brains behind Acapella the News.
Yeah.
And I see that guy in that t-shirt, that beginning of that shot, like I need an REM shiny happy Canales. That's what I need. I see that guy. I start hearing that song. How can anyone be that happy?
It's his dream. It's his dream to run the football like that.
I'm so jealous of that guy. It's crazy. And he's coaching a dumpster fire.
Like,
it makes no sense.
That man wakes up and says, you know what?
Hey, man.
I got to change the sheets. Honey, why? Because I was dreaming about running the ball last night. Oh, I get it.
Shiny, happy Canales.
Running the ball. Hey, look. With
Black
the Bengals.
T-shirt. Game ball from Tepper.
It's funny at the end of the press conference. I think it was Joe Person who asked him what happened to the game ball. Where is it? He's like, it's in my office next to my first coaching win as a high school coach with Taft back in 2004. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. So look, the Panthers have an opportunity from the first 2 weeks of the season, looking like everything was miserable, going nowhere, looking like hell, to the following 2 weeks of optimism, building blocks. Maybe there is something to what Canales is trying to do offensively, all thanks to Andy Dalton. So yeah, this makes perfect sense. You ride Andy Dalton until it looks like it's kind of wearing itself out or the bloom's off the rose, that he's an older quarterback that might not be able to hold up over time. Or Andy Dalton might have a Joe Flacco kind of renaissance, like what we saw with the Cleveland Browns, last year, right? So that's entirely possible. And it gives Bryce Young an opportunity to sit tight, completely reset himself, and maybe next year they can have a go at it with him, or maybe he gets traded. I mean, all that stuff, we can table those conversations for later in the year. But the reason why I say there's an opportunity is because the Bengals are going through it right now. 0-3 to start the year. Last night, it wasn't necessarily a Joe Burrow problem. They just are losing these close games, but they're losing these close games to bad teams. So they've lost to the Patriots and the Commanders now, like last night. Those teams won a combined 8-26 last season. They had a close game against the Chiefs, but that's more of a conversation about the Chiefs we'll get to in a second. And the other thing about the Bengals is that they're already trailing by 3 games in their own division, thanks to Justin Fields and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So there was a video making the rounds last night where Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor were off to have a private conversation about where things are right now. And I know they have some like contract stuff going on with their wide receiver, but it's getting late early for the Bengals. And if you're feeling positive about where things are after a win against the Raiders, Panthers might turn this thing around and be 2-2 before you know it. Not what we would have thought after the first 2 weeks.
Nope.
That's the NFL, though. Comes at you quick.
It does. Which is why it didn't really make any sense for them to be that bad to begin with, the Panthers.
Right.
Because the league shifts and turns just in a blink of an eye.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. That actually can get us into the lightning round. Zeus in a bra is back every single time. It gets you, Joe. I know it does. So here's the thing about last night. You can focus on the Bengals because of their next opponent for the Carolina Panthers, but suddenly, because of the way the NFC East is looking, i.e. terrible like it typically does, Washington might not be completely out of it. If the Dallas Cowboys can't get right defensively, the Dallas Cowboys can't stop the run, and they're also doing the infighting. Everything's playing out publicly. Who's to say that Washington can't get things going with Jaden Daniels, who looked pretty good last night. I know the Washington Commanders social media team was having a lot of fun with the whole they're running a college offense with having beaten the Bengals yesterday. So once again, we find ourselves in a situation where the NFC East is a dumpster fire, but somebody's got to win it, Joe. So why not us?
Hey, they beat the Giants because the Giants can't properly manage their roster.
No.
That's a good thing. And then last night, I thought Daniels was really good in a game where the Bengals were ripe, in part because they had poured it out against the Chiefs the previous week.
Meanwhile, the Jaguars, much like the Giants, are officially on Bill Belichick watch because when you've got Trevor Lawrence, when you're trying to be in position in that division and you have a nothing burger like they had last night against the Buffalo Bills, it starts to call into question Doug Peterson, who I know you like as a head coach. He's a good head coach, but it's just not really working out right now with Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars, which, again, gets us back into Bill Belichick watch.
You might have a Trevor Lawrence problem.
There's that too.
You might.
There's that too.
You know, I went to the game his freshman year where he threw this 20-yard out on the first play of the game, clear across the field. And I'm like, that's what a NFL quarterback looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you peak early, man.
You do.
Sometimes you win a national championship as a freshman and you peak early.
I said
it just happens that way. Sometimes.
The pass for Trevor Lawrence was always built in with the Urban Meyer rookie season. You know, of all those rookie QBs that haven't necessarily panned out, right? I always gave Trevor Lawrence the biggest pass because, well, he was put in a bad situation with Urban Meyer. But we're no longer here in that situation. It's been a few years since the Urban Meyer. Oh man, I'm playing Alabama every week in the NFL, and it's just he doesn't look the part. I mean, there's some other quarterback. It's interesting going back to. I was thinking about this driving around with how some of the conversation is going, and that we put so much pressure on the rookie quarterbacks. We forget about the older guys. I remember having a conversation with Bomani Jones last year where we were finding ourselves like in the Miami Dolphins situation where you're all the way down to Skylar Thompson, right? And somewhere along the lines, we forgot what a good old veteran backup QB looked like. And what we're seeing kind of unfold is a renaissance of the Scott Mitchells of the world, you know, what we grew up with, right? You had your guy. There was no like, well, I got to go get mine somewhere else because I'm a true number one. No, they understood. I'm the backup guy, right? And I think that might be where we are, where guys are just comfortable, like Sam Darnold, where he wasn't pinned as the future. They actually were thinking J.J. McCarthy was going to be that guy, right? But he has stepped up. Get back to Andy Dalton. Again, somebody who is comfortable with where he is in his career. And he has stepped up. And it looks pretty good right now. You know, Russell Wilson, we'll see how that plays out in Pittsburgh. There could be a demand for Russell Wilson if there's some more injuries here and there. And Justin Fields looks like he is the guy. But then again, life comes at you fast. And Justin Fields might find himself hurt or he might regress. And you're going to have to go to Russell Wilson at some point. And he seems comfortable with that.
We've been advocating for the Dolphins to either kick the tires on Bryce Young or Russell Wilson. Their real play should be to make a trade for Trevor Lawrence. That would be my play.
The true, can Mike McDaniel fix the guy?
Yeah. I mean, it's not going to, I said this when he got drafted by the Jaguars. I said this.
Yeah.
He was never going to win a Super Bowl with the Jaguars. It was never going to happen for him.
Yeah.
Again, sometimes you peak in high school. Sometimes you feel really good.
That's fair.
This guy just happened to peak his first year in college.
That's fair.
Okay.
That's fair. That's fair. I saw this question posed by Nick Wright and First Things First on Fox Sports 1. Are the Chiefs, you know, now that we've got 3 weeks of the season, now we got 3 weeks of the season in the books, and the Chiefs admittedly have not looked good. You brought up Travis Kelce. Like, remember when he was on the team?
I am so jealous of this bit that he did. It was amazing.
He's looking a little washed.
He's so amazing.
Travis Kelce's looking a little washed,
Tip
right?
my hat to you, sir.
So the question was, are the Chiefs lucky? Are they good? So what is it?
He had 4 banners behind him that he unveiled.
I know, because he's a big Kansas City Chiefs guy.
And it was just kind of like,
he's got Mahomes Mountain. His best bit is Mahomes Mountain.
So he goes and he puts on the banner all the things that they've been doing. And it was like, what do you think is going to happen when they actually start playing good?
Right.
Like, what do you think is going to happen?
Look, I was listening to, speaking of Bomani, I was listening to Bomani driving around yesterday, and the topic of Patrick Mahomes came up and how Patrick Mahomes has not looked focused, how Patrick Mahomes does not look like we're used to seeing Patrick Mahomes. And Travis Kelce has looked not at. I mean, he's old. He looks old. I mean, I don't know how else to
You
put
sure
it.
he's still on the team?
He's still on the team.
Oh,
He's still on the team, Joe.
okay.
He's still on the team.
You could have fooled me.
I know he's still on the team. He's not out there gallivanting with Taylor Swift right now. He's still on the team.
I thought they cut him. I honestly, I didn't know.
But I'm not going to repeat the same mistakes that we did with Tom Brady and the New England Patriots, or Tom Brady in general, when he went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Patrick Mahomes is in that level. At some point, they're going to figure it out. Last year, they also looked like a team that the wheels had fallen off, and they're going to rue the day that Tyreek Hill was traded to the Miami Dolphins, and they ended up putting it together, and they found different ways to win. And I think that's where we start to, at least in the Chiefs, we forget that good franchises, good coaching, good quarterbacks will find different ways to win. They don't always have to do it the same way. The Patriots did this with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. They won where Tom Brady wasn't the star, the focal point. They won because Bill Belichick knew exactly what to do to you on defense. And then there was the 2007 Patriots, where they had an incredible offense thanks to Randy Moss, which of course we know how the rest of that played out with the Giants and everything else. I do think that the Chiefs are going to ride their defense, put themselves in a position to win, and they'll find a way to win because they still have Patrick Mahomes, who still has the ability to do these things. And it's September. Big thanks to Roback. Check them out online, roback.com, RHOBACK.com. Use that promo code OG20 to save 20% off your order. You got any Roback on today?
Not today.
Not today? Okay.
But you don't know me like that. Roback.
So they got incredibly comfortable polos. It's going to be hoodie season once all this rain and tropical stuff gets out of the way. And we'll have those nice, cool, crisp mornings. Can't ask for a better hoodie than one from Roback. You are busy. You want to get lunch. You don't want to be in line. You know what you do? You download the Happy and Hail app. You order through the app, and that food will be waiting for you to pick up.
Take a break. Let's take a hockey break. Brought to you by Happy and Hail.
You want to go in sicko mode and bet on the preseason?
I was going to say, don't we have hockey tonight? What do we have? They got the Lightning tonight, right?
You want to do it?
Yeah, why not?
You want to go? You want to go? It's on the road. Always take the home team in preseason hockey.
But you know how how Rod treats the preseason.
You
man.
Want to go?
No, I'm not going to put. How do you bet on hockey?
Can you get it?
How do you bet on hockey? By the way,
preseason, just take the home team.
Just take the home team
because they dress like enough good players to make their fans happy.
That's true.
And then
That's
you
true.
have like the unwritten agreement that you'll play all the young guys on the road.
Okay, let me see. Carolina Hurricanes. Come on, give me Carolina Hurricanes on the DraftKings app.
I don't like to make a practice of betting against Rod. But.
No, neither do I. You can bet on. No, actually, I cannot put money on a preseason game because the only game that I have as the next event on DraftKings is Tampa Bay at Carolina for home opener on October 11th.
Oh, boo!
So bummer. No
letting us
action.
down.
Although, I don't know, you might know a guy. So we'll be taking hockey breaks very, very soon here.
I used to know.
including the preseason. And in the meantime, you got Happy and Hail. They'll be in the building, which is very, very cool. Check them out. Happy and Hail. Speaking of Lenovo Center. I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get used to it.
Good catch.
Check our friends out at Breeze Through. You're going to be tailgating for football. You might be picking up some stuff on the way to a hockey game. The Breeze Through right there across from PNC. I'm sorry, Lenovo Center. It's in my head now.
Sam Hartman, Sam Darnold.
It's in my head
Sam
now.
Howell.
I'm going to get this right. You check out that Breeze Through. And they got locations all across North Carolina, conveniently located just outside football stadiums. Very, very smart.
I'm like legitimately getting mad that you can't bet on preseason hockey. Right?
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. So yesterday we put out the prompt because your text messages had been blowing up after the NC State trip to Death Valley that didn't go so hot. Essentially, it was that
was nice. That's a nice way to put it.
What do you want NC State football to be? That was the prompt. That was the question.
Yeah.
What do you want NC State football to be? So you got to tell me, what the hell kind of text messages were you getting on Saturday while that game was unfolding?
You got both. I mean, there's a solid group of Dave supporters who are like, hey, winning 8 to 9 games a year, while not spectacular, is better than 5-7, 6-6, even 6-6, 7-5. Then there's a group that says, I don't care if we're 8 or 9 wins. I want to have one breakthrough at some point, please.
Okay.
And then you have the group of Dave supporters saying, right, if you want something, you have to pay for it. And then you have the group of not Dave people saying, we're already paying a bunch of money. It can't just be about money. Like at some point, you do have to be able to coach during a game.
I do think,
right?
I do agree with that sentiment. It's not always about money.
Right. But I think this is like sweeping college football because the Arkansas AD is out there begging people for money. Tennessee's upcharging people for money.
Yeah, the talent.
They're both in the SEC. Arkansas has like Tyson's Chicken and Walmart and all this other real money. You know, NC State can't convince their Tyson's Chicken or a Walmart to give money in the Goodnight family, right?
Yeah.
So I understand it from both ways. Like I understand the frustration. And I also understand the people who are like, hey, this isn't that bad. 8 and 9 isn't that bad. Every wins every year. It's kind of like, well, what do you want to be? What are you happy being? Right? So NC State is very proud of the fact that since 2020, the start of the 2020 season, their ACC record 36-18 is second to only Clemson's 42-13.
Okay.
Right? So now you get into that's a pro Dave number, right? That's your ACC record, by the way. I mean, that's your overall record. So their conference record of 23-12, you look at and go, yeah, well, now Miami has a better one, but Clemson, Miami, that's great company to be in. You're in the top third of the league, 23-12. Now here comes the anti-Dave crowd, which has always been, again, the one thing with Carolina was, why do we lose games as a double-digit favorite?
Right.
The one thing with State is, why can't we win games against ranked opponents?
Yeah.
Well, Dave is 5-11 versus the top 25 in 2.0. So since 2020, 5-11. That's not bad. But he's 4-8 against ACC teams. And only 2 of those losses are to Clemson. So now all of a sudden you're 2-6 against the games that are ranked, that are not against in the non-Clemson division, which is something that you've often talked about. It's not just Clemson in State's way. So you're 19-4 against unranked ACC teams. You're 4-8 against ranked ACC teams. And I think you look at that and you go, that's not great. And now going back to 2014, when it was really 2014 is the first year Dave was good, right? The first Jacoby Brissett team. He's 7-22 against top 25 teams, all top 25 teams. Kind of puts you in the same boat as Pitt, Wake again, Dave Clawson, my favorite coach, 6-23. Pitt, Pat Narduzzi, the 1-for-1 really with Dave Doran, 9-22 against ranked teams. You have Clemson, who's obviously the exception, 31-13. And then even Florida State, who's been pretty good, 12-24. Carolina, 10-20. Miami, 10-20. So is there really that big of a difference between 7-22 and 10-20? Not really. I mean, all these teams are pretty much the same other than Clemson when it comes to playing ranked opponents.
I think there's an overcomplication here when it comes to the question, what do you want NC State football to be? I do think the root of it goes all the way back 25 years when Chuck Amato first showed up and NC State basketball was really going through it.
Yeah, they were in the desert.
And Chuck Amato presented an opportunity with NC State football to do something that was better than what North Carolina or Duke could do.
Yeah, to differentiate NC State from their neighbors.
Yes. In a lot of ways, ECU had kind of been had cornered that market at that time. In that era, ECU was known as the football culture. Obviously, that's a whole different other podcast about how we got here with ECU.
Yeah.
Okay. So back to NC State. So during that time, I remember doing radio, and we had Adam and I had Bino Cook on, just to illustrate. Sometimes I have to remember that a lot of you younger audience members weren't around for this stuff, don't remember this kind of stuff. But I'm using this story to illustrate where NC State was running hot with Chuck Amato and gave NC State fans this glimmer of, hey man, This could be our thing going forward.
Renovate Carter Finley, the Murphy Center, the whole thing.
Whole bunch of stuff to catch up. And Bino Cook did an interview where he said that Chuck Amato would be the next coach at Florida State because of what he had been doing at NC State at that time. And, Adam and I were like flabbergasted by that entire exchange. Like, what are you talking? Like, what? He's like, oh yeah, he's going to go back and all this other stuff. I was like, okay, whatever. Because my thing was like, have we seen enough out of Chuck Amato yet? But whatever. But that's where we were. Let's never forget that there were even restaurants called Chuckums.
Yeah.
Okay. But that went away, obviously. I mean, we know how the rest of that story goes. And, Tom O'Brien was the right settled coach to kind of bring NC State where it needed to be. But Dave Doran was getting in on the ground floor of an up-and-coming coach that could truly build a program. He's done that. Dave Doran has built a program at NC State that is unlike anything that I've ever seen at NC State or really in the Triangle for as long as he's done it, because I was too young for the other instances, right, including Dick Sheridan. But I think what Dave Doran is showing you is there are limitations to a school like NC State. You say middle class, just like there's limitations to a school at North Carolina where you're not the priority. But NC State, they want it to be a priority, but you run into money problems. Now, the question you have to ask yourself is, at this point with Dave Doran, all things being equal, if you gave him more money, do you think you'd get different results?
I don't.
Okay.
They spent more money this year on NIL than they had at any point. And the real problem with Dave is the problem, quotes.
Yeah.
His strength is finding and developing players.
So do you think that Dave,
teams.
Do you think that Dave
that's his strength,
is a coach of an antiquated era at a young age?
I think he would be more comfortable in the previous era for sure. And you're already there's some stuff playing out this week because remember they've played 4 games now. And keep in mind, we've been talking about this with Florida State. MJ Morris is the one that kind of broke the mold. He's not going to be the last player at NC State or anywhere else that decides they're not playing after 4 games anymore.
Let me ask you this, because this is what I'm leading to. They just got beat by Clemson and Dabo. And as much as Dabo has been receiving a whole hell of a lot of scrutiny over the way he runs his program and not dabbling in the transfer portal, I don't have the comment in front of me, but David McKenzie, our favorite lawyer, brought up, like, you know what? I suddenly find myself as a Dabo defender because as much as he's doubled down on his culture, he's doubled down on his development, it is still good enough to win in the ACC. It might not be where they are nationally in the college football playoff, but at least they're going to get into the college football playoff based on the culture that Dabo has doubled down on, which again gets back to my Dave Doran question. Is he doing it the wrong way?
No, I think they're trying to take a chance in the situation they were in this year specifically.
But let me rephrase it then. Do you think that Dave should stop trying to play the portal game and bring in another quarterback that can settle you down or whatever it is and double down on what his strength is? I develop, and you use the money that you bring in for NIL, much like Clemson is, to keep your guys so that you do build to a window rather than trying to plug in holes.
I think it probably requires them more patience in terms of can you play and keep those younger players?
Okay.
Right. I think as we saw with MJ, again, maybe he's the exception. Maybe he's the new norm.
I think he's the exception.
I don't know. That's the thing. Like, we're legitimately yesterday, they did not put out a depth chart yesterday. They said one of their defensive ends is not playing for them anymore.
Yeah.
There is some question about who is still on the team and who's not still on the team right now after 4 games.
Fair.
But I think that's going to happen across college football. I don't think that's specific to Dave. Again, going into the portal and taking chances and not hitting on those chances, that's not specific to Dave in NC State. Everyone's going to have that problem. Notre Dame paid Riley Leonard $3 million to play football.
How's that playing out?
He's not playing well.
No, their offense is not dynamic in any way.
So what I'm trying to say is, and there's nothing wrong with being middle class, but I think where you can have it both ways. You can appreciate what Dave has done.
Yeah.
They've consistently won more games. Now we could talk about the schedule. Fine. Dave has consistently won more games than anyone in NC State history. Consistently. Okay. What he hasn't had, though, is the breakthrough. losing to Jamie Newman in an inexplicable game to a completely depleted Wake Forest team in 2018. Losing to Clemson that same year where you had a chance to play for the ACC the previous year, where you had a chance to play for the ACC championship.
Yeah.
And you have a procedural penalty, derail you, a punt return, derail you in that game. He's consistently had different opportunities this year, the Tennessee game, this Clemson game, go back 2 years to the Clemson game as a top 10 matchup. He's consistently fallen short in these bigger opportunities.
Sure.
So you could be frustrated by that and still appreciate what he's done. What I would say about Dave Doran at this point is you have to make peace with who he is. It's not changing in year 12.
Yeah. I think
that's the one thing I would say to people who are getting so fired up that they want to get rid of Dave. I would say, okay, no,
chill out.
This is who Dave is, and you take some of the bad with a lot of the good.
To tie it back to the start of the conversation with Mack Brown, right? Because I can already tell some of how some people are probably thinking, you feel like you're a Carolina fan or whatever it is. Like you talk about Dave Doran differently than you do about Mack Brown. And I can give you a reason why I talk about them differently.
They're at different stages of their career.
Completely different stages of their career. We know the end is here or near for Mack Brown. The fascination for me is how do they handle it? And I go back to that conversation we had with Bubba Cunningham. When you hired him for Mac 2.0, age was always going to be a factor. And right when he was hired, it was always, he'll coach for 5 years and then he'll reset the program and they'll be in great shape and the next coach can take over. It was never a long-term solution for Carolina football. So my fascination around Mack Brown has always been, when will it be it? With Dave, it's different. Dave is different because of the stage of career he is in. He's a relatively young guy. He's had opportunities to take other jobs. One of them was, I think in both cases, I think the Ole Miss job in particular, and then the Tennessee job didn't happen because of how the circumstances played out. I think, what was it? Who was the guy at Ole Miss who won a bunch of games at the end and they elevated him?
Luke.
Matt Luke, thank you. He's the old Duke coordinator, right? And obviously we know how the Tennessee thing played out, where there was this huge pushback that ended up, the AD at the time ends up being the AD at Wake Forest, right? So that was a whole mess. But it's not like Dave hasn't had a look from other schools because of where he is in his career. But he likes it here. He has longevity here. He has built something that he believes can power through. But I don't have the clip from yesterday. But he talked about grit. He talked about grind. He believes in the culture that he's made in NC State to overcome the slow start to the season, and they'll find a way to scramble. And I think that's the part that I don't think Dave Doran gets enough credit for. Say what you want. If you look at the record alone, you'll go, shoulder shrug. When you look at how they got to those records, you then go, oh, well, wait a minute. It's actually pretty impressive that you did not allow this quarterback injury to completely derail your season, or you overcame MJ Morris trauma that could have completely eaten up the locker room. But the locker room was strong enough to overcome that stuff, able to go back to Brennan Armstrong, have a guy leadership. Again, you go back to Mack Brown, not letting players talk. Well, the NC State season and the conversation around this NC State season changes because of Peyton Wilson talking to the media saying, this is our guy, right? So all of that is a credit to Dave Doran and how they're able to kind of absorb this weirdness and still find a way to get to a pretty decent season. But that's not enough for NC State fans who get to that 8 or 9 wins. And it gets back to that central question. How do you get over that? How do you get to the 10 wins? How do you beat Tennessee in a primetime game? How do you not get embarrassed by Clemson on a noon kickoff down in Death Valley, right? I don't know the answer to that, unless it's just, this is who Dave is. Honestly, our conversations around Dave Doran completely change if he has more of those.
Yeah.
But I think that is rose-colored glasses in how we think about previous NC State football iterations under previous coaches. And I've used this line a lot, and it's worth repeating here. You talk about those breakthrough wins in previous eras. Well, what exactly was the breakthrough?
You had that moment.
That's not a breakthrough.
I know.
That's a one-night stand.
I know.
Right? That's nothing lasting. It's like, man, I had a blast last night. And then you try to repeat it the next week and you find out, oh, this club is not as cool as I thought it was. Well, there's a lot of drunk people. Wait, was that me last week? Oh, this isn't cool. Okay. So think about that. the breakthrough. What exactly is the breakthrough? Because you can make the argument that NC State's never had it. And what you thought was a breakthrough was just a moment in time.
Yeah. Well, the 1 year that Chuck won 11 games, you could, beating Notre Dame in the bowl game.
Okay.
Sure.
That's fine. Once.
Yeah.
Once.
I know. And it was supposed to lead to something the next year, and it didn't.
And what did it do?
Right.
Okay, then. Whereas with Dave Doran, there is a consistency level there. The other thing that Dave would probably do himself a huge favor, because he beats Carolina, right?
Mm-hmm.
At least in Dave Doran 2.0, he's beating Carolina enough. The thing that will probably help him out too is these bowl games that just kind of go, and I get bowl games are tricky, but classic college football is win 8 or 9 games, beat your rival, and send everybody home happy after a bowl. Leave them feeling good.
He can't do that right now.
And he can't do that right now. He can't do that right now.
Yeah.
That's a problem. So we put the prompt out for the OG Sports phone. We got a couple interesting responses. We'll play a few of them.
Calling about the prompt of what do you want NC State to be, and I just want NC State to be someone fun to watch. Not from the area, but went there, and when I started there was the years of Dave Doran starting his career, and he came after the students, and because of that, I just kind of lost him from the start, and I just wanted it to be a fun team to watch, go out there and maybe win one every now and again. Again, we're not going to be that top-tier football program, but it'd just be nice to win a fun one every now and then.
That's valid, and that call is also valid in that, one thing that Dave could probably do himself a favor is don't tell fans how to fan.
Yeah, he gets himself into a bad habit of that. He did it, as that person said, in the first game, Louisiana Tech, where it was 1,000,000 degrees in the stadium and it was like a 28-point lead at half and nobody came back out.
Yeah.
Started the third quarter, and he began his career by basically telling the fans, "What's your problem?"
Right.
And then the next year they were winning more, but still struggling. There was a lightning delay against Boston College, and not a good Boston College team. They end up losing to Boston College,
right?
And it became, the cupboard was bare. So that was his early messaging was not good.
It was terrible.
Fred Demarest helped him with that in the later portions there of the teens. I think last year his messaging was really good. This year he's talked a lot about the fans. Again, began his preseason press conference talking about how great it was being at some basketball games last year in the tournament and watching how the fans really were rallying around. I think in his head he has an idea of what he's trying to say. It doesn't always come off the way that he's trying to make it say. Like even this week, I think he's getting back into this week of like, no, I need you to rally around us. And I think his point is right. But sometimes when you're a fan and you see that, you're like, okay, man, listen, just maybe figure out the run defense. We'll figure out how to be fans.
Yeah, let us fan. You figure out how to coach.
Yeah.
Here's another one.
Joe and Joe, this is Bud from, of course, G-Town. Dave Doran. I don't know what to expect anymore, and I don't think anybody really can. You can build a team in a year, or you can tear a team down in a year. NIL has changed the game. It's changed the play field. So, we could hit a home run next year in the NIL and again start talking about we're going to be one of the teams in the playoffs. So I think you got a lot to look at, State, Carolina, and all of them. Is recruiting now is a one-year thing. Anyway, you guys know I love the show. Talk to you later.
We appreciate it, Bud. I did get a text.
That's Bud, our Inovana O2 Fitness genius.
We did get a text from a 984 area code number, not to gatekeep, but to provide context. As a donor squarely in the 60th percentile of the Wolfpack Club priority, here's what I want State to be. I was there to be no doubt what I can't read all of a sudden. Oh, I see what he's saying. I want there to be no doubt that we are a better program than Carolina. Gets back to what I said about Chuck Amato. I want to put the boot on the neck of their program and not give them an inch to talk about how they're anywhere close to us in program quality in football, like they have been able to do for decades to us in basketball. If we can do that, then being able to take care of business on the national stage will take care of itself. Maybe. I worry that without the level of quality, we're going to be left out of the next round of realignment, but that Carolina will be in due to their brand, quote unquote, and that will leave us behind and we will be relegated to ECU and App being our peers. That's just not acceptable. I think that's what hurts the most about this season. We had a chance to prove that we belong and we just don't. That is a valid That is a valid response to the conversation because he's right. He's right about that. It's actually something that Chris over at Bless Your Chart wrote about in context of Carolina and where they are right now. And that, yeah, Carolina, you might say basketball season's here, but in order for North Carolina to be where they go next, yeah, the brand helps, but you also got to have a pulse in football too. And that's where this particular person is absolutely right when it comes to NC State football, not being relegated to the ECU status and being left behind.
Sir, I would say to you that UNC's problems in football are a feature to the Big Ten.
Yeah, there is that.
Not a bug.
There is that. There is that. I mean, they look good against Minnesota. They look like they belong against Minnesota.
You know, I try to stay away from that transitive property, but I did find myself this week going, how fucking bad is Minnesota?
Right.
That they couldn't score a touchdown,
dude,
on that.
That's
Carolina.
That's Big Ten football for you. All right, so we did transition. I put the prompt out for state, but we did get a couple of, because I think Carolina fans are also trying to figure out what they want out of football too. So I think this came to us from Paul.
I mean, 2015 was an awesome year. Went to the ACC title game. Lost to Clemson, but probably should have had an opportunity to win the game. Onside kick. I'll never forgive those referees. But that was cool. 2020, you go to the Orange Bowl. You kick Miami's ass. You kick Miami's ass the last game of the year, and then you go to the Orange Bowl. That's pretty cool. Go to win the division in 2022. Yeah, 2022, and go to the ACC title game. Like on paper, UNC football, if you just zoom out, it's pretty good. Like it's not bad. But the problem is that the low moments are so low. Oh my God, they're so low. Getting beat by ECU at ECU, having them drop 70 or 60 or whatever the hell fuck it was on your head. And then JMU game, having them drop 70 on your head. You're up you're 6-0 in 2023, number 10 in the country. Losing to Virginia and Georgia Tech back to back. I just want them to be a normal football team. Like if you're gonna break my heart, break it in a normal way, and just keep me entertained during the fall before basketball starts. That's really all I'm asking for. Thanks.
You know, it's wild.
Why can't you just be normal?
You know, it's wild hearing Paul say it. So think about what he just said.
Yeah.
NC State fans want what Carolina has had since 2015.
Mm-hmm.
Carolina fans, in this particular case, Paul, wants what NC State's had since 2015.
Consistency.
NC State's been consistent and normal, but has not had the pops like Carolina has had. Also, Paul, I can't let you mention it on my program without qualifying it. That was the most bullshit Orange Bowl berth in the history of college football. So I'm glad that you still, I'm glad you remember it in the sepia tone and colored glasses.
Man.
But the only reason they got there was like the classic all-time example of if something good can happen for Carolina, it will. Oh, it will.
Speaking of Carolina, our guy Sean called in, and he had a very special weekend because his family's JMU, it's Carolina, it's all this stuff all together, right? I added this down because Sean was providing all sorts of context, but I'm just giving you the context. He's a guy who has a lot of connections to Carolina and to JMU. The family all gets involved, and while he was excited to see it, he was also kind of shocked that it ended up being a 70 burger from JMU on this game, and he continues.
I can't say that I saw that score coming, but the outcome was less than shocking, even with all the changes JMU went through this year. Plus, I think JMU needed that game more than Carolina. They have playoff hopes of their own now, and they lose that game and go 12-1 and win the Sun Belt. They're probably not going to make it. With that win, that opens the door. Speaking extremely hypothetically for Carolina, if they go 12-1 and win the ACC, they're in. So JMU needed that game more, and they played like it. And I guess that'll lead me into timing in for what I want Tar Heel football to be. Beyond, saying that I want them to be Bama under Saban, what I want is, and I've said this for years, I want to be Oregon. I want to be Utah. Never bad, usually very good, always top 25, beat your rivals more often than not, and every now and then you have a nationally relevant team. Floor of 9-3, ceiling of college football playoff. I'm not saying that would be easy to get there, but you did ask what I wanted Carolina football to be. And I guess what I'm saying is what I want Carolina football to be is I want Carolina football to be JMU football. Thanks, guys.
It's an interesting way of putting it. Definitely an interesting way of putting it. Anyway, I appreciate people who had called in to take that prompt. And that's what the OG Sports Phone is for. Big thanks to Whitaker and Hamer. Check them out online at wh.lawyer, attorneys and counselors at law. I was out in Garner yesterday. Shady's is right there. The attorneys and counselors, all that stuff, Whitaker and Hamer can take care of you. But it's all about giving back to the community. And they got a cool spot in downtown Garner with Shady's. But in the meantime, you can check out wh.lawyer. Also, speaking of the G, big thanks to Hometown Realty. Check them out online at myhtr.com. Guaranteed offers are not in your best interest, especially in this market that continues to be hot. So get the maximum value of your home by going to myhtr.com, and you can buy and sell with confidence. Now, you've bought that home. You need insurance for that home. You want to make sure you save money and continue to save money. That's where Matt Davis over at State Farm comes into play. Check him out online at insuregarner.com, 919-779-8277. Find out how you can save money on your home and auto and continue to save. Like one of our listeners pointed out, hey, that initial savings was great, but there's always new ways to save money, and Matt Davis has been there for him. So, again, check them out, insuregarner.com, theoginsurance.com, or call them directly at 919-779-8277.
And I think we will have somebody repping at the Mat 12 Big 12 Game of the Week.
Ooh.
Because it's Colorado against Central Florida. Which one's a Big 12 team? Which one isn't? Is it a conference game or is it?
I don't know.
Nobody knows.
You made me think there for a second.
Is your bro going, though?
I'll ask him.
Okay, he's got the hat now, I think.
He does. We'll make it work. All right, let's get out of here on some Hey Joe. We did have one other sports phone call, which was more positioned as a Hey Joe question from a 919 area code. You get one guess as to who this came from, Joe.
A 40-level parking deck. 40 levels. Now, if y'all could just get Luke DeCock on there to clarify the advances in egress of getting in and out of parking deck, since he spoke of all of the advancements that have occurred in that department.
You have any guesses as to who that was?
Hi, Steve.
Yeah, that was Steve. So what he's referring to is the latest renderings about what all three phases of the Lenovo Center redevelopment will look like. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm pulling up the two renderings that were made available yesterday. I can describe them to you as podcast listeners. And it goes well beyond that tailgating alley that we saw a couple of weeks ago.
One.
That's phase one, a tailgating alley. They've got that facility to have smaller concerts that do not fill up the Lenovo Center. But what I'm looking at is some high rises, buddy. I knew that was in the plan. It's kind of stark and like a cold splash of water. Like, oh, this is what you're talking about.
Stark Enterprises?
Yeah, maybe there is one of those weird fusion generator things somewhere underneath Carter Finley Stadium to make it all powered up. And there's a couple tall buildings. There's a couple, retail, office, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, designs for a 40-story parking deck. Now, let me explain something to everybody. As a resident of North Hills, I can tell you what the plans are going to look like. And then I can tell you what the actual final product is. And they always reach for the stars when they come to these renderings. And there's
I could go back. I can see why they didn't release that one when they released the original phase one.
Hold on a second. Let me pull up the
because that would be the entire west parking lot. And
hold on.
Why would you save the parking in the back of the building? That makes no sense to me. Develop the entire back and front of the building.
So what are you looking at? Oh, you're looking at the east. All that parking going away.
No, that's the west.
It was west? Oh, you're right. Sorry. The west side is all going away.
The East is already gone.
Yeah, the East is gone with the tailgating alley. I don't know my directions.
Now they're saying that the next phase is going to be just get rid of the entire paved parking lot.
Well, we don't know.
I think the contract says they have to save 5 acres. That looks like saving 5 acres to me.
It does. Also, you don't know what they're going to do with the fairgrounds.
I don't see the baseball stadium, but that's where it will be.
That's where that will be there.
Yeah.
You can also take Lime scooters to the games. No, I'm kidding, guys. I'm kidding. I'm just joking on that one.
It does feel like they were trolling though by saying a 40 level parking deck. Come on. Does that even exist in the world?
I am not gonna do the thing that we've seen in college football where people are like, I will shove a long leaf swine smash burger up my ass. If there's a 40-story parking deck outside Lenovo Center, I will take that breakfast burrito and shove it up my ass. Like, I'm not going to do that.
Hurt me.
Joe Giglio is not going to take a pint of ice cream and mix it with. No, I'm not going to do that. Not going to do that. All right. To the YouTube comments. What do we got here? From Ja Rule, Mack Brown just being selfish old man. He's abusing the program at this point. He just likes coaching and doesn't want to walk away. The program be damned. UNC football is controlled by money and relationships. Winning is not the priority in Chapel Hill. They're a national brand. There is no reason they can't be consistently good in football. Also, you guys are definitely the best podcast on YouTube covering NC sports. We appreciate you, Ja Rule. From Backs to Pack, nice work on Sirius XM 84 with Barrett Salee and Tom Luganpule. Yeah, that came out of nowhere. I guess things were so bad on Saturday between NC State and Carolina that they had to call me up for Sirius XM, which was kind of amusing. From John, I hope and pray that after the season it's over, Mack Brown announces his retirement. It's time for the program to have a fresh start. By the way, thanks for showing Ovies in a suit. Yeah, it depressed me. From Doug, I thought Giglio would trademark fastball. This is what happens when you work with somebody. You spend all time together. You just start talking like that person. Pretty soon, I'm going to have Giglio talking about Star Wars. True story. From Graham, Duke has as many football fans as JMU had points, and I'm one of them. Some people are not happy with the way that you talk about Duke, Joe. For instance, from Revisited, little drunken owl trying to ignore Duke.
Get your job done this week, Duke. Then we can talk some more.
And also from Revisited, wait, there's no way Mack Brown is crazy enough to think that an ACC athletic director job is a semi-retirement gig. He is actually.
Yeah,
he is. From Dale, who had called in, I didn't go to Nature's Relief. I support my local drug dealer.
It's fair.
That's fair, man. That's fair. Speaking of two roosters, Joe, we're not shoving anything anywhere other than a spoon into the pint.
You know, I still have the peanut butter cookie.
How much more do you have left, man? Like, seriously, how much more do you have left?
I've been like hoarding it, saving it, protecting it at all costs. Are you kidding? I will not go gently into the night.
That's fair, man. That's fair. Check them out, tworoosters.com. Who knows? Maybe from Giglio's demand, they'll bring back that peanut butter cookie once he runs out. You're going to need a re-up at some point, right?
I know.
Maybe it'll be the secret pint of the month just for you.
Please, from your lips.
Big thanks to the butcher's markets as well. You know what's better than ancient Ovia's family recipe charred jalapeno and garlic chicken? You know what's better than that?
Nothing.
Leftover. It's been sitting there. All that goodness sitting in the fridge, reheating it. That's the beauty of Butcher's Market. Check them out online, thebutchersmarkets.com. You can get those marinated chicken breasts. You can get wings. You can get the signature steak tips. You can go from behind the case, the glass case, or you can get the prepackaged stuff and meals as well. I'll be doing the 4-cheese manicotti tonight. Italian enchiladas, as I like to call them. So big thanks to The Butcher's Market. Check them out online, thebutchersmarkets.com. And of course, our friends at Mosquito Authority. Check them out online, bugsbite.com. Look at that, more rain, more critters, more mosquitoes, even though we're officially in fall. Take care of it with our friends at Bugs Bite. Again, that's bugsbite.com. That's going to wrap it up for today's show. Tomorrow, we'll check in with a former North Carolina player that was there for one of those moments Giglio references when the party's over.
And our friend Taylor Tenenbaum from the ACC Network.
It's going to be a lot of fun. So we will see you Wednesday.